Ladies, gentlemen, and pals of all ages, with new updates hitting the game over time, the resources of highest value in Palworld have changed, and so have the best ways of generating them quickly. So today, with those considerations in mind, let's go over the most effective ways of getting the resources that you'll want most, both in terms of the fastest ways, but also any passive ways if the fastest way is very manual. Starting off with the brand new stuff then that you'll be needing in high quantity, Hexolite is a massive requirement for Feybreak gear, buildings, and items, and one of the main crafting components of Hexolite is Chromite. The fastest way to manually generate Chromite is by capturing a smoky PAL and getting it to 4-star, either through manual essence condensing or through the PAL extract consumable. Then you take that smoky to any Feybreak cave or dungeon and use its PAL ability to uncover a number of Chromite nodes when you ping with it. The smoky's partner skill will also boost the amount of Chromite that you get from each bit that you pick up, so you can actually get quite a lot of this very quickly by going cave to cave or just doing some dungeons. The more passive infinite potential farm option for Chromite is to get a full breeding base setup and breeding just massive amounts of Silvergis as a PAL. Silvergis drops Chromite on defeat as well as when you butcher it, so if you mass breed this PAL and then butcher it, you can get an unlimited supply of Chromite without having to go out to caves to have to find it or collect supply drops or do dungeons or anything like that. But while mostly passive, it is a very slow generation of Chromite comparative to just going out and getting some. Next up we have Hexolite Quartz. There is no fantastic dedicated farm for this, however there is one singular location on Feybreak Island with 3 Hexolite Quartz nodes within a base radius. Right here on the sort of southern tip of the Red Flora mountain region, right at the end of this path up on the hill, there are 3 nodes right next to each other, and there's also a crude oil hole on the other side of the ridge too for some extra value as well. So you can set up a base here to mine this Hexolite on cooldown and get some bonus oil at the same time. The second best way, like for Chromite, is setting up a breeding base to mass breed Celestier en masse. These drop 2 or 3 Hexolite Quartz per defeat, including when you butcher them too, so you can mass breed and then butcher them for a load of extra Hexolite Quartz in a rush. The next sort of rarest resource is Crude Oil, and this one isn't the most farmable by any means. The best place to build a dedicated base towards farming this resource is over here on the west side of the volcano region. In this spot, you can find 3 crude oil patches next to each other, and there used to be a bit of a trick where you could get 2 oil extractors on the same oil deposit, but the devs did patch this out because they decided they didn't like it, so now you can only get 1 of these extractors per oil patch, which, while giving us a maximum of 3 in this location, is still quite good, and it is still pretty much just the most that you can get currently in one base. It does take quite a bit of electricity and power generation to continually pump with that though, but this gets you a ton of efficiency from one of your base slots. If you want to add even more speed for an alternate option, you can again do the old mass breed and butcher combo, but for Sootsier as a PAL, who has a 50% chance when defeated to drop some crude oil, and that also counts for butchering, though that's much less effective than just the extractor base setup if you can get that working. Past that, pretty much every important resource to have in large quantities can be farmed relatively efficiently within the base. The most meaningful one, however, these days is probably gold, actually, which can easily be produced in massive numbers through the new gold coin production line unlocked at level 48, with the only required material being metal ingots for this and the time required to handiwork your way through it. With fast-working handiwork PALs now, especially in Feybreak, the production time is essentially non-existent, which means it comes down to how fast you can make ingots, which with the new gigantic furnace and 4 strong kindling PALs pouring into it is extremely quick. So then it's how easily can you mine massive amounts of ore, and most players tend to build up insane ore stocks over time due to the existence of the ore mining site 2 building for your base that lets you use mining PALs to just generate ore passively and consistently. So you generate ore in large amounts while just sitting around, and then you can convert that directly into ingots very quickly, which can then be converted into gold very quickly too. And the thing is, gold can buy a lot more things in this game than most people realize if you know what the merchants do. Various merchants sell different PAL organs, so you can get those in large amounts, like electric organs, which are required to craft the ammunition for a lot of the actual new weapons. There is a merchant in the dune shelter in the desert as well that sells high quality PAL oil, which means with loads of gold you can end up with an endless source of polymer as a result of this. There's an ammo vendor here as well for an earlier game ammo types, and I've heard from others that there's actually a wandering merchant who can visit any bases you have on the Feybreak Island who will sell advanced ammo types in exchange for gold too. So if you have a big pile of gold sitting around, whenever that merchant shows up, you can stock up on a bunch of ammo for your newer weapons as well. You can also buy the vast majority of farmable food items for gold, so with mass gold you can pretty much just never run out of that stuff, including every ingredient that's required for cake except for honey, which you do still have to farm at your ranch the normal way. That said, aside from this, Hexolite itself is made from Chromite, which we've covered, Hexolite Quartz, which we covered, and ore, which we talked about en route to ingots and gold production. Plasteel is actually also still important for some some deeper endgame items too, and this is made from crude oil, which we talked about, and Paldium fragments. Paldium fragments are easiest to generate through the crusher, or especially the refrigerated crusher, in exchange for a multitude of different options you can do here, with the most generally effective one being just basic stone into Paldium if you have a ridiculous excess of stone, as many players will do at this stage of the game. Speaking of the refrigerated crusher specifically, one of the biggest goals of most players in the sort of endgame power increasing section is Pal Souls, which you can use to give massive statistical boosts to each and every Pal. If you breed a bunch of Anubis, specifically as a Pal, through a mass breeding base and then you butcher them in just massive amounts, they will give you one large Pal Soul each, and each one that you butcher also has a chance of dropping extra technology points through a manual. Then if you use the refrigerated crusher, you can turn one large Pal Soul into 2 medium Pal Souls, and those 2 medium Pal Souls will turn into 4 small Pal Souls, which lets you convert down at a very nice ratio to turn large Pal Souls into any of the smaller ones very easily. But then you can also convert 2 large Pal Souls into 1 giant Pal Soul, which lets you passively generate these 2 through a breed and butcher method as well, compared to actually having to go and hunt down giant Pal Souls. Outside of this, pretty much everything has been given an automated base farming option before this point now. Sulphur, coal, and regular pure quartz as well have all gotten their own base mining version that you can set up and use at higher levels whenever you need large amounts of them, just generated over time passively. And even things like expeditions are an addition that lets you just generate valuable resources over time depending on which ones you do, including things like ancient civilization cores, which are very valuable for crafting too. The only other real main things that either haven't been covered yet or are covered in some way by mass gold farming is high quality cloth, which you can generate loads of with Sibilix as a Pal within your ranch setup, regular Pal fluid, which to my knowledge is still best gained by mass slaughtering Gobfin at the Gobfin turf checkpoint while using an Orzerk to boost the drop rate of water Pals at the same time. Though for a more passive method, you could do the old breed and butcher, but it's far more time efficient for this one to just go mass hunting Gobfin, as they do spawn in very large numbers over here. Aside from that, the only other important things really are currencies like dog coins and successful bounty tokens, and the best farms that I've heard people work out for these are for dog coins, just searching around for Mimogs to kill or capture, as they drop dog coins when defeated in the wild. But this doesn't work for the breed and butcher combo, it should be worth noting, as they only drop regular gold coins when you butcher them, not dog coins. For this, you also want to bring a Catris with you, as the partner skill gives you a chance of increased rewards when defeating neutral Pals, and that does actually boost the amount of dog coins you get from a Mimog when it triggers. As for successful bounty tokens, the best method I've seen seems to be just roaming around and killing the bounty targets once per respawn cycle. I've not heard anyone come up with something more effective than that so far, but if you know anything that I don't, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. That pretty much does it for today, and everyone, a guide to getting pretty much every sought after endgame material as of the Feybreak update, with a lot of the earlier game stuff now being automated and much simpler than it used to be. I hope you've all enjoyed this then, and hopefully it helps you out in just mass generating what you need even quicker than you have up until this point. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.